Broadcasted on television DTH channels. Further, he trained librarians of more than 500 government schools in Delhi in the last 10 years through in-service training programs. He has completed 4 major research projects and working on several international projects. He is the reviewer for 10 international and 3 national journals in information studies. Dr. Bharat is also the information coordinator and standing committee member of the IFLA in Netherlands. I am section and jury member of the international paper contest of ASIS NT USA. He is the founder of the startup ISBI. Recently, his works received international recognition from MIT USA, Princeton University USA by conferring the Diversity and Inclusion Scholarship Award 2022. Dr. Rajkumar Bhardwaj is the recipient of the UN for IM, that is UNESCO Fellowship for Information Management, and has prestigious Commonwealth Professional Fellowship, United Kingdom. He is also the recipient of prestigious the Information Innovative Award 2022 and Informatics Outstanding Researcher Award 2022. ASILA Outstanding Research Award 2022 is also conferred upon him at Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. So without further ado, I invite Dr. Rajkumar Bhardwaj to the podium to share his invaluable knowledge with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankita, for this generous introduction, and thank you, Shweta. And thanks to each one of you who joined this workshop and in the journey of learning, research,
दूसरी वाली 12 बजे से 12 वाली को लगाएंगे थोड़ा ही है ये तो हाल है सर उसको करेंगे
all right, so can you please close this door? Right. So this is the agenda of today's program. Right.
जो आप वहां से करेंगे ना
So this is the agenda of today's session, and the agenda is very simple, but I didn't know that most of you are master's students. So the session was originally prepared for the faculty members who want to take projects, and that was the purpose of this session. But as I already mentioned you that I will slightly mold it to make it more friendly for the master students as well as some of the faculty members and the research scholars. And that's how we will do it. It's a slightly lengthy talk because there are 2 components covered in this. One is a grant writing and another is a project writing. So I don't think second part we will be able to touch upon because it's only for 1 hour session, 1.5 hour session. But let's see how we can cover up. I'm also delivering first time this talk. Never got any kind of invitation to speak on this topic, but it's very close to my heart because I have been involved in many projects. Probably St. Stephen's College Library is the only library in India which has hosted a maximum number of projects compared to other libraries. We had this 4 national projects and we have 3 international projects in the library. And along with that, we also published several papers through these projects. And that's how I actually, when I got this invitation, I thought let's grab this opportunity to disseminate my learning among the research scholars, because I never miss any opportunity when I got an invitation to speak to the research scholar, because research is very close to my heart, and research is a never-ending process. So in this session, not only just you are learning, I will also learn through Q&A. So therefore, you can stop me at any point of time if you have any doubt related to your this session. So these are the basic outlines what we will cover. How to prepare a research grant proposal. That is really essential to understand. It is a kind of a specialized skills, a really specialized skills. If you want to be in academia, if you want to be in a profession, because I was also associated with the law actually. I started my career in the judges library. So I'm very well versed with the medical information system. So even if you want to be a lawyer or if you want to be an academician, in both cases you have to be a researcher. That's the beauty of the law. Without researchers, neither you can be successful as a lawyer, nor you can be successful as an academician. So research is basically one of the essential component in legal domain. Because in a small legal problem you have to solve, you have to do a research. Without research, you cannot solve, you cannot help anyone. Therefore, the grant writing is also some kind of a specialized skills, where you can not just only do a research for your profession, you can also get some kind of a funding support actually. So for instance, if you are a master's student, you want to be a PhD scholar, and you don't have any kind of a funding, any kind of a support from the government, as in the form of GRF or any kind of a university, financial support, you can also suggest your supervisor, why not to take a project? And in the project, you can be a research assistant, you can be a research scholar in the university. So instead of universities paying you as a stipend, you can be a project assistant or project associate, and you can do your PhD with the fundings. So that's another alternative. Therefore, as a research scholar, as a master's student, you do need to learn the art of the grant writing. It is not necessarily that your faculty, your supervisor with whom you are doing your research, he is conversant with grant writing. You can inculcate that kind of a skill, and you can come up with a proposal to your supervisor that this is the proposal I want to do with my PhD, and we can get a grant, and your supervisor will be really happily agreed. Even if he has some doubt to take you as a research scholar in the department, but when you come with a grant proposal, certainly he would like to have you as a research in his research, in his or her research team. So that's the beauty of this. But there are some problems actually, and these problems are these that we don't know what are the basic principles of grant writing. We don't know what are the basic principles of preparing a research proposal if you want to do a PhD, okay, or if you want to do any kind of a research. So proposals, principles of grant writing or principles of preparing a proposal for your PhD is also you need to learn in this workshop, and that's I think the objective of this workshop is all about to inculcate the research aptitudes among the participants. Then when you will prepare a proposal, then you need to understand what is your problem statement, what you are trying to solve. Yeah, sometimes what happens, you are doing the reinventing the wheel. The problem has already been identified, the problem has already been solved. So as a research scholar, you need to learn in whatever field you are going to write a research grant proposals. You need to understand what has already been done in the past. And from there, what are the gaps which have already not been solved in the past, and how you are going to fill those gaps that you need to understand. And what is the basic approach? So when you write a grant proposal, there is a approach, and that's called the SMART. SMART is basically an abbreviation, and that's also we will discuss in this proposal how you prepare the budgeting and how you will write the report after getting the project. So these briefly, because these are two sessions, I will touch first session more, and the second session I will touch briefly because Dr. Najim has already touched several aspects of preparing the project writing, and I have really a high regard for him. He is the only few person in my domain whom I actually trust blindly. So whatever he say, I agree that he is 100% correct. Okay, so but the disclaimer is the PPT is not my own. I have taken the content from somewhere else, and these PPT are prepared by the Richard and audience, and I'm just using these PPT's content to disseminate the learning. So it's only for the educational purpose. I'm not claiming these contents are owned by me, but the thoughts which I will share with you, they are my own. They are all my personal, not my institution even, not from this PPT, but they are my personal, based on my experiences. Because I have been involved in many grants, not just nationally, but internationally also. I have been involved and I know how to get grants. So there, and in education, no one should be actually so selfish that they should keep the knowledge to themselves. So there is a very famous saying that if knowledge is not shared and the money is not used, it's going to be destroyed. Okay, so that you need to remember. But when you will prepare the grant writing, each and every aspect is very, very important. Each and every aspect is very, very important because uh, uh, small things make perfections, and perfection is not a small thing. So that you need to remember each and every aspect, whether it's an introduction, whether it's a methodology, whether it's a problem, that should be clearly defined. Grant writing is not just a lengthy document, like you have to write in 10, 20 pages, and then only you would be able to get the grant. That is not the case. Even in the shortest, in fact, preparing the short proposal is one of the toughest tasks. So as much as you can, the basic principle is you have to be very concise when you are preparing a proposal. You have to be very specific when you are preparing a proposal. But there are two type of funders when you are trying to get a grant. One is a government funders, and another is a non-NGO kind of things, funds. So these are the two basic funders are available. If you want to get project, if you want to get a grant for your PhD or for any kind of a research, and in the government there are more funds are available. However, in the NGOs, less funds are available. That you need to remember. And in the government setup, when you are trying to apply for the grants, it is more transparent. Like everything is transparent. Call for proposals are transparent. Anyone can apply. Eligibilities are defined. How much, like what is the maximum limit for the funding? What is the minimum limit for the funding? Which will be the major project? Which will be the minor projects? All these are well defined. Okay, but here you need to understand there are other type of funders called NGO, non-governmental organizations. There are actually less transparent. They are also transparent to some extent, but they are less transparent. And in the government projects, they are multi-years. Sometimes these projects can run for 2 years, 3 years, and then again you can get their project to elaborate your problem, and you can get further projects. But in the NGO project, they are short projects. They are for short durations. And in the non-governmental organization, the relationship matters a lot. What is your reputation with the NGO? So NGO doesn't mean I'm seeing these small NGOs. I'm talking about the international perspective. When you are see the European world or the Western world, the NGO gives also large number of project based funds. There's one funding agency in the UK. It's called the Welcome Trust, and you won't believe it's a trust. It's an NGO, and they give large amount of funds because it's a charity basically, and people give money as a corporate, CSR. CSR gives a lot of funds to the Welcome Trust, and Welcome Trust actually decided those funds to do research in the area. So, but in this non-governmental organization, your reputation and your relationship with the organization matters a lot. So that's another area you can explore. But now you need to understand what are the basic principles. What are the basic principles of the grant writing? So write proposal as per the need of the funders. So whatever funder you are trying to tap, whether it's a national government funder or non-governmental funders, each and everyone has its aim and objectives. So even if your proposal is good, but that is not aligned to the agenda of the funder, you are not going to get a grant. Okay, for instance, in India, I'm giving you some example. One is ICSR, where there is a DST, there is a DBT. So each funder has a different domain, different aim and objectives. So if you are preparing a proposal, grant proposal aligned to their aim, you might get success. But if you are not preparing a proposal aligned to their aims and objective, then you are not going to succeed. That you need to do. And other thing you need to understand is treat the funder as a partner. So when you are writing a grant proposal, don't try to play smartly. Don't try to hide things. Don't try to be, extra clever. Whatever you should have a credibility as a grant writer. So when whatever is written in the proposal, you should adhere to that. Sometimes people write in the grant proposal that I will do wonders in this project, and things the subject will change altogether. That should not be the case. You should specifically identify what is the problems. So what I'm trying to say is you need to be a partner with the funder rather than a employee of the funder or any kind of things. Then other thing is read the instructions carefully. So all these funders, whether it's a private or non-government funders, they have their own instructions. Sometimes they clearly write, like the national funders, that only the institution which come under the 2F and 12B, they are eligible to apply for the grants. Okay, but if you are not reading the instruction clearly, what will happen? You will spend a lot of time, because grant writing is not a 1 week or 2 weeks job. You have to prepare ahead. Sometimes grant writing should start 6 months ago. Okay, and sometimes grant writing should start even before the call for the proposals. So what I'm trying to say is that you need to read the instructions clearly, whether it's a current call or it's a previous call. Go through those instructions very well. Sometimes they say, like there's a DST funder, they says the grant is only for the women. Okay, sometimes they say the grant is only for the faculty up to the age of 35. And then if you don't read these instructions, sometimes they say the grant is only dealing with the cancer research or subject specific. So that you need to understand. Then don't use jargon. But whenever you are preparing a proposal, don't use jargon. It should be very simple language, easy to understand. Because sometimes what happens when there is a review committee, even in government and non-government organizations, people come from different domains, and your subject might have a different, terminology, the different jargon you use, which is very familiar in your domain, but not in other subjects. For instance, extradition in law, it's very popular. Everyone knows it. But if you ask extradition to any other person in the computer science or in pure science, they would not be able to understand what does it mean by the extradition. Okay, so that you need to understand that. Stay positive. Don't be negative that everything is fixed. Only those are the favorite institutions, they will get the grant. That's also a misconception. Sometimes people think that high rated institution, A institution, or institution in the top 10 or top 100 universities, faculty members only get grants. That's not the case. So you need to be very positive and avoid procrastinations. Don't prepare the proposal at the last stage. Okay, whatever you are preparing, you should start early, and you should keep revising during the part for the proposal and submit. That's also one of the advantages. If you submit the proposal beforehand, before the last day, then your number for submitting, for the presentations. After call for the proposal, you will submit the proposal. They will call you for the presentations, and during these presentations, they will also list the names. Sometimes you would be imagine that success rate is 2%, 5%. So if 100 people are called, only 5 people will get the grants. So if out of those 100 people, if you apply early, you will have a chances that your presentation will be early. And when your presentation is early, you might get a maximum time, isn't it? That sometimes happens. That happens with me also. If your presentation is the end during lunchtime, they are very hungry. They want to have lunch. They hardly matters whether your proposal is good or bad, but they won't give you more than 2 minutes. However, the people who presented earlier, they got the 10 minutes. So therefore, that you also need to avoid procrastinations. and embrace change. So what are the new methodologies are coming in your domain, that also you need to include in your proposal so that you can impress people who are reviewing it. So these are the myths about that. Some people think that if the research grants you are getting, that can be used for the personal purpose. You can travel, you can have a leisure time, isn't it? Some people believe that. Some people think that if one has a 10 grants, then he's a very rich person because at least 20% of bachai leta hoga. That's a really misconception. Sometimes if you are seriously doing research using these grants, you basically end up paying from your pocket because there are many bills which you cannot claim, isn't it? There are many bills you cannot claim. And I will give you some of the examples like my research assistant who sometimes travel in an e-rickshaw, isn't it? He sometimes travel by his own bike. He cannot claim bills. So there are some hidden charges. So that should not be conception that these grants are for personal use. And other thing is grant writing can be outsourced, and that outsourced money can be part of the project. So some people may have an idea, let's contact Bharat sir and we will pay some money and that money we will add in the project and that's how we'll get the project. So that should not be the case. To grant writing there, you cannot claim that money. Even if you are outsourcing, you cannot claim that money in the projects. Then other myths are the single application can be used to get multiple grants. That's also a myth. So once you are applied to a one funder with one proposal, that is there actually. If it's accepted, that is there. You cannot imitate it. If you are trying to imitate it, you are actually can be in a serious trouble. Then grant applications are not successful because of the grant writer's fault. Even if your applications are rejected, there might be multiple reasons of rejections. There might be multiple reasons of rejections. As I mentioned, you have to be aligned with the aim and motto of the funders. Even if you have a very good proposals and it's not accepted, that doesn't mean it's your fault. Okay, so don't blame yourself. Instead, you should take a positive note of it and you should revise your proposals and submit again. So resubmit it. So there are funders actually in the West because I have also slightly less exposure. So there are funders in the West who actually accept applications, grant proposals, which are submitted twice. Hence they rejected earlier 2 times, but 3rd time if they are submitting, they got accepted. So that's also the case with some funders that they first hand they never accept it. They try to understand the perseverance of the scholar, and then they realize that this is really an important area which researchers would like to pursue, and then they give grants. So that also you need to understand. Process of process. Sorry, I'm not skipping this slides. So these are the myths I already highlighted, and this is the process of grant writing. So whatever is a grant proposal, these components must be there. These components you have to include. So it includes the summary, it includes the introduction of the applicant evaluation problem, statement of the problems, program outcomes, methods, evaluation plans, future support, and the budgets. So 2 or 3 I would only highlight. Remaining you can grasp your own. And the first and foremost is introduction to the applicant organization. Suppose there are some area in your organization where you are working match with the funder's aim and motto. So try to accentuate that institution motto. That my institution motto where this project will be hosted, that also has the same motto where the funder has this motto. So I'm actually aligned with your motto. So my institution has the same aims and objective which the funder has. So if you are able to establish that connections very well, there are more chances you will get the grants. Okay. For instance, I'm in St. Stephen's College, so we actually believe in academic excellence. So, through academic excellence, we try to establish that whatever we do in the institution, that is actually very high standards. Okay, So that's how I try to align with the sometimes funders requirement. And other thing is, what will be your project outcome? That also you need to clearly mention, very concise, very specific. That out of this project, this is going to benefit the society. This is going to benefit in this domain. This is how I'm going to solve the problems in the methods you need to explain. Even a small methods can be very vital to get a grant. Small methods I'm telling you. For instance, if you mention that I will collect the data using the car, then funder will have an expression, you want to enjoy the car ride. So that should not be the case. So you need to be very specific that I use the multiple modes of the transport to collect the data using these grants. Bike, motorcycle, public transport, and my own car if needed. All these things should be specifically mentioned in the methods. Then, one more thing that's very important is that evaluation plan. That even if this project has these, expected outcomes, but the funder can use the evaluation methods to evaluate my project outcome. For instance, when this Bill and Melinda Gates give grants, the Bill and Melinda Gates also gives grant. When they give grant, they sometimes also use the satellite mapping methods, whether that project has an impact on the ground or not. Isn't next suppose they have given a money for the tree plantations, so they use the satellite to whether how many trees were planted in this area, isn't it? So you need to be very specific. Suppose you are trying to get a grant from the environmental ministry and you are focusing on the plants, then you can say that I will use these methods to evaluate my outcome, isn't it? So that can be very fascinating, isn't it? So what you are trying to do? You are trying to establish your credibility with the firms. Correct? Similarly, if you are a research scholar, you want to be a research scholar after the masters, you mention in your proposal to your supervisor that I intend to achieve this, and you can measure my outcome using these different methods. Then your supervisor will be directly convinced with you. He would prefer to have you as a research scholar rather than others who have not mentioned the evaluation methods. Okay, so these are basic tricks, free maybe around now. The other thing is that future support. So that is also very, very essential component to understand. Suppose you are mentioning that this whole proposal or this whole work research will end up when the grant will end. That also is going to impact your research. So in your proposal, whether it's for the PhD synopsis or whether it's for the grant, you need to mention how you will continue on this work after your PhD, after your grant get overs. So if you also include that in the conclusions or in somewhere in your proposal or in the synopsis, that also can help you to get PhD admission and as well as to get a grant. So future support of any project is very essential for the sustainability. So sustainability is another issue you need to include in any kind of a project. चाहे वो PhD का synopsis है, चाहे वो master degree का dissertation है, या फिर grant writing. Sustainability is also a buzzword in academia nowadays. So sustainability also you need to have in your proposal. And of course the budget component. Budget also you need to be very specific. There are two types of budgeting you need to take. One is a line budget, and line budget is basically all about mentioning each item one by one. For instance, the salaries of your salary if you are going to be part of the project, and then contingency, then ICT equipments, then books, contingency, all these things should be specifically mentioned. That's called the line budget. But the other type of budgeting in the grant writing is called narrative budgeting, where you actually explain it. So sometimes if you are not following the narrative budgeting in your proposal, you may end up in a problem. You specifically mentioned that I will use this budget for this purpose, but during your research, a new kind of a demand comes up. And that demand you cannot fulfill using the line budget. So if you are using a narrative budgeting methods, explaining each component, then you actually complete your project very easily. For instance, I'm giving you one example. that in one of the project proposal, we had to get the ICT equipment. Okay, it was basically for the ICT. The line budget had was the ICT. But in the narrative budgeting, we explained that we may have to pay remuneration to the people for recording their voice. Because we had to record voice for certain set of users. So what we did in the line budget, putting an asterisk, we explained it through the narrative budgeting. And that's how we can solve that problem. When actually auditor raise an issue, how you utilize this money under this head, then we say we follow the narrative budgeting methods. And in narrative budgeting method, we have explained each and every component where we are going to use this budget. So that's a thing you need to remember. So this is one very famous quotation, and it says, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes thinking about the problems and 5 minutes thinking about the solutions. So what is the crux is that whatever you tend to pursue as a research scholar or as a grant writer, as a faculty member or as researchers, focus on your problem more. Okay, so think maximum about the problems, and what if you are able to map the problem correctly, there are 100% chances that you will be able to solve the problem timely. Alright, then as per the, I already explained the introduction to the opinion organizations with credibility and problem statement. You need to explain descriptions, what would be the impact of your project, and what are the root causes of that problem that you need to explain. Then in the methods, all these things you need to have: who, what, when, where, why, and how. So if you address these who, what, when, where, why, and how, that is basically a correct way of writing the methodology. Alright, then key to successful grant proposals. That also you need to know, and that's called, we call it a SMART methods. So SMART is an abbreviation. So SMART says specifically with the data. So whatever you are going to claim, whatever problem you are going to highlight in your synopsis or in the master's dissertation or the grant writing, be specific to the problems. Like 10% higher or 15% lower. Like a population. If you want to have a project on a populations, then you need to be very specific that during this November 2023 and December 2023, the AQI is between this 300 to 500, isn't it? Or it should be more specific, 300 to 400. So you need to be very specific. Okay, so as long as you are specific, there are more chances of getting the grants. Then other thing is you need to be measurable. Then what kind of tools you will use to collect the data or to measure the problems. That you need to be very specific. What kind of methods you will follow: survey, interviews, observation, focus group. That should be very clearly defined. Then how you are going to achieve it. So that also be in a black and white. That there should not a grant proposal or in a synopsis, nothing is vague. That you need to remember. जब भी आप कोई graduation का proposal लिख रहे हैं, PhD का लिख रहे हैं, या grant का लिख रहे हैं, nothing is vague. Everything should be very, very clear. That this is how I'm going to solve it. I'm going to achieve it. If you are not clear in explaining this, it means you have not studied well. You have not done the background study of your subject, of your domain. And that is also very, very important, is that then you need to be very measurable and achievable, how you are going to achieve it. Then relevant, how relevant is your area, that also you need to be. So whatever you are preparing, be relevant, should not be irrelevant, isn't it? Like in 2023, if you talk about the concepts which were invented in 1990, there is no relevance. Those concepts have been changed, new methods have been evolved. So stay relevant, whatever you are planning in your synopsis or in your grant proposal, and the time bound. So timeline should be defined. So there are short-term outcome, there are long-term outcome, there are mid-term outcome, and there is a strategic plan to achieve those outcomes, and what will be the capital projects, and how you will cope up with the problems during the project. All this should be clearly defined. So this SMART is the key to get the grant proposals or grants for the research. And these are evaluation methods, like benchmarking, periodic updates, and setback clause and outcome evaluation. So these are the evaluation methods you need to, and this is the sustainability. That sustainability there are three aspects of the sustainability. One is the sustainability of your project. That is, one is economic sustainability. So if you mention in your project that once this fund is over, I will stop working. There will be no external other support. You are not going to get any grant. Okay, so you need to highlight, you need to accentuate that once this project funding is over, my project will remain sustainable. My project will remain funded, because where I am hosted in my institution, they will continue to fund it. So if you highlight that, there are more chances you will get the project. All right. All right. And then is social impact. That this project has a societal benefit. These number of people will benefit from this project. If you are focusing on environment, you can say the people who are living in Delhi NCR will, specifically benefit from this, especially the younger kids, toddlers and all children and the elderly people, they will benefit from it. So if you highlight specifically who are going to benefit from your project, there are double chances. All right. So do not, forget this. So do not fund hope. So whenever you are writing a proposal or synopsis for the PhD, if at any point of time your supervisor got a clue that you are very desperate to get a PhD admissions and you have no interest in doing research, you are not going to get admissions. Same happens in the grant. So if the funder get a clue that you are a fund hopper, okay, you only want to have funds to make your resume heavyweight or to add something to your resume, then you are not going to get grant. So whether it's a PhD admission or it's a grant. So it should not reflect in your proposal that this is the case. Your intention should be actually for societal benefit. Your intention should be generic for the uplift the society. Your reason should be academic in nature. All right. So because they are the people who review it, they are also expert. Like if you give me the proposal to review it, like if just a glance of the proposal, I can tell you whether this is the fund hopper or that person has a genuine reason to do research. Because I have learned for the last 15 years. This is not the first year I've been doing grant writing or grant proposals writing. I've been doing it for many, many years. And I have that kind of a flavor and exposure that with a glance of the proposal, I can tell whether the person is a fund hopper or not. So that also you need to understand. And the grants, not donation for future sustainability. That also you need to remember. Grants is basically a responsibility to solve certain problems, certain set of problems. And how will highlight sustainability in proposal? One more example I will give. Like if you are seeking a grant to establish a clinic, whether the clinic is for the animals or for the human beings. So you need to mention that there are volunteers doctors. When this fund will be over, there will be volunteers doctors who will come to the clinic and will treat the people or other things. Okay, so if you highlight that cause in the proposal, then your sustainability will be established. And once your sustainability is established, there are more chances of getting success. All right. So, power is the capacity to translate intention to reality and sustain it. So that is the power basically. The translate intention into reality and sustain it. So that's also we need to envisage to translate intention into reality. And this is an example of I mentioned the line budgeting and the narrative budgeting. This is line budgeting where we have explained each and every component. How in the narrative budgeting we explain it. So what are the indirect? I also mentioned you how many are hidden costs. So this kind of problem also we can solve. How much is given cost? So basically, indirect cost shall be divided by the direct cost, and then you can have it indirect cost. So generally, like if you have a 1 lakh and that cost is 4 lakh, then there will be like 0.25, which is around 25% of the indirect cost. That's that you need to know. So who are the national funders? So these are the national. There are more actually, but these are nowadays very active national funders where you can contact. And it is not necessary that even if you are in law domain, you cannot approach ICMR. You can of course approach ICMR because there are a lot of legal implications involved in the medical sciences, isn't it? You can also approach UGC, ministries, DPT, similarly Department of Biotechnology. There are lots of legal implications. All these funders can actually support your cause in your legal research. As for the international funders are concerned, this is DUI.gov. This is international funder, which provide the listing of various agencies who gives grant at international levels. You can get and how these things you can identify who are the right funders. As I already mentioned, if you are able to establish the alignment between your institution motto and the motto of the funder, there are more chances of getting grants. Okay, so I think how much time left, sir? 10 minutes?
Go ahead.
How much? Let me ask participants because how much time is left? Still 1:30?
18 minutes.
Huh?
18 minutes are left.
Oh, that's perfect. So we'll wind up in 10 minutes and then remaining time for the Q&A. So one major aspect in the grant writing is writing the summary. So each proposals will go along with the summary. Okay, summary is very, very important because why we prepare summaries? Because there will be different members in the review board, and these review board might not be able to go through the entire proposal. So they only go with your summary of your proposals. So summary should be prepared for each proposal when you have to summary. So when you are preparing a summary, make sure, and that summary should be prepared in the end of the grant writing. You have finished everything, and then you sit. There should be at least 1 day gap when you finish your proposal and when you write your summary. You should not look into the proposal to prepare a summary. If you are not able to prepare a summary without proposal, it means something is missing in your thoughts. Okay, so look away from the proposal and prepare a summary, whatever are your thoughts. And write few short paragraph in the beginning, like catchy words and really good quality content in the beginning in the introductions. And prepare your summary keeping in view the scoring methods. The reviewer also has their own scoring methods, like these funders. Sometimes they give more weightage to the methods, sometimes they give more weightage to the outcome, sometimes they give more weightage to the tools and technique used. So whatever is their scoring method, that should be in keeping your mind while preparing the summary. And try to align with the call for the proposals, because sometimes calls for proposals like ICSR recently had a call for the proposal for the short research project for 6 months, specifically tackling certain requirements. Okay, so that should keep in mind the call for the proposal, and then you write a summary, including each and every aspect, briefly, concisely. And once you finish it, give that summary sheet to someone else in your internal team for review. Just please read this and give me your thoughts on it. And once you give your thoughts on it, then you should revise it, isn't it? And then you should submit along with your proposals. All right. So that is the methods of writing the proposal. If you are applying for the non-government NGO funds, then you should give a courtesy call to the funder that I'm going to apply for these funds, and please see whether you have received the applications. So please acknowledge me once you get the applications or the proposals. So these are other things you can refer the foundation grant research. Now these are the things where also you can get an idea of various international funding agencies. Got it? So I hope now you have a certain flavor. See, I'm giving you an example. These are the limitations. Organizations are not eligible for such support. Sometimes in the call to proposal, this kind of things are also comes. So all that also you need to keep in mind. Whether you are eligible for the call for proposal or not. If you're not eligible for the call for proposal, then don't apply it. And sometimes institution, the funder also specifically says the foundation does not fund advocacy and lobbying efforts, conferences, seminars, all these things. That also you need to know. These are another things. Anyway, so yeah, and we'll wind up after this because second part I think Margin has already touched upon report writing. Now, how you follow these funders? So there are lots of social networking sites. So each funder has their own page on these social networking sites. They also have their own mailing list. Okay, so follow their page, and whenever they will call for the proposal, you would be able to know whether the call for proposal is open or not. So sign up in the LinkedIn, Twitters, and Facebook, and then you'll get the information about these calls for proposals. The other thing is alerts also. All these funders have alert mechanism also. Like they have their own sites updates, so you can subscribe to their sites updates, and you can also follow the methods of Google Alerts. So in the Google Alerts, you can mention the name of the funders, whatever you have identified, like 4, 5, 6. And if you set the alerts and put the call for proposals, Google Alerts will send you and will update you whether the call for proposal is open or not. I hope this was very specific, very specialized session. But if you want to be in academia or in any other domain where you are eager to get grants to pursue your research, this session I'm sure can help you a lot. So if you have any questions, any feedback, any comments, the session is open to all of you. Any question?
So like when as a research scholar, when we are pursuing our research, so then we have already defined the scope of our doing our research. And so if any funders if are there, and because an individual researcher has a limited scope, and compared to other professionals, they have a large scale funding and they do it properly. But as an individual researcher, sometimes we need funds. But then also, sir, we see that suppose if my project is related to children's, and I am approaching Ministry of the Women and Child Development, then many a times we see that they would not be interested in my project research, even though there are studies that are done by reputed institutions. So then how, sir, will get the support? Meaning thereby that will I have to wait for any such organization or governmental agency call for the proposal, or if I am interested that I want to scale up my project, then I can then themselves approach them.
For the government needs a trust. If the call is open, it is open for everyone. They will not accept your sole proposals. Okay, but for the NGO funds, you can approach personally. That I already mentioned. There are two types of funds available for the research. One is government. The government agencies, their proposals are open to everyone. They cannot entertain your proposal alone.
So, sir, as a research scholar, if I am doing
so if I am a research scholar, you can be part of the project. Don't be your supervisor, because these funders have a basic eligibility criteria that the issue person to be faculty members. Your supervisor can be a PI and you can be an assistant in the project. So your PIE, your supervisor, can give you that money to work on that project when they come in the head of the salaries. Okay, so that is what I told.
So basically, I have to then contact only NGOs.
Yes, because you are limited scope. You are not formally associated. You are not an employee of that. Because these funds, grants, do not individuals. These grants come to the institutions, and then institution release to the employees. Okay, government grants. Since you are not employee of the university, you are only as a student or self or you are involved. So the grant will come to the institution will release to the employee, and the employee will further engage in the project and will pay the remunerations. But for the non-governmental organization, you can approach that. But for that, you need to establish a credibility, you need to establish a reputation, you need to make a relationship, and after that you can get it. It's not they will see your profile, they will see your research profile, their awarded profiles, their Google Scholars profiles, their profile which are created by the institution. They will go through that profile, and then they will ascertain whether you are a person of that caliber to solve that problems and to achieve that outcome, then they will do that.
And then, sir, what they are getting?
They are getting, they are achieving their aims, their motto. Their motto, like NGOs, motto, some of them are societal benefits, some of want to contribute in one way or the other to the society. They have their own specific objective, and they will only give grants when your research is aligned to their objective. Alright? Anyone else? You want to ask? Anyone? You have a question?
So I don't know if that question is relevant or not, but
Please ask. All questions are relevant.
I am from the street, and if I want to do a research earlier, then I want a grant for it. So for example, you said that there should be sustainability of the grant is over.
Yes.
So can you give one example for a research specific way of making it sustainable after the grant is over? How are we supposed to make our project sustainable after the grant is over?
So
An example, research based.
Listen, there are many actually. I'll give you examples that if you're an employee of any university, so you can say that once this project is over, the team of people will keep working on it, and my institution will support financially, and they will provide me the infrastructure, a room, air conditioning, environment. So these are also the component of sustainability.
But so if the university is providing us with all these things, why would the fund ever give us?
No, that's not the case. It's actually a partnership. I already told you. It is a partnership between you and the funders. So when the institution is giving the room air conditioning environments, but the funder will support you to hire people to work on the project. The funder will give you support to travel from one place to another. Okay, funder will help you to buy books, so isn't it? Funder will help you to buy some stationery items. So it's a partnership, and some part is already being done by the host institution, and some part will be done by the funder. So that's so it's not a donation. It is a partnership. Right? Anyone else? No? No question? Please.
So, there are many schemes I have seen from government only for those women who are not working now because of their family problem and other. So there are grants for them also for project and other purposes. So in that also they have to means they have to be with a university or incubation center, or lonely they can apply for those grants. Because after a gap of 3, 4, 5 years, DST is giving such type of proposal for women fellowship and like.
They are actually from faculty. You know, Indian funders, most of these government funding agencies, they give grant to the people who are associated with the institutions. So if somebody wants to do it like independently, then obviously the NGOs are the options. NGOs are options, and yeah, these are the things. But few independent people who retired from a very reputed organization, from a very reputed post, like principal scientists from a reputed research organization in India, the ministry is also support their cause. So we need to figure out where the person fits. So it's a very actually, in India it is not easy to get jobs. Very, very tough. It's very, very tough. And I congratulate these organizers of this workshop who included this topic and who identified me to speak on this. It's very tough, very, very tough. Because funds are level for the research and the number of people involved in the higher education institutions. So it's not easy. They are like, I'm telling you, the success rate of last year, I said projects. There were more than 2,000 applications. 2,000 applications, precisely more than 2,000 applications, I can't tell you exact numbers. And the success rate of those applications which were selected was not more than 300. So you can imagine. Alright, but thank you very much for patiently listening, and thank you very much for asking. Please, yeah, please.
So like if we want to do empirical study or empirical research in an area where we are not living, like I am working in the Indian Society of International Law in Delhi, and I want to take up the project to study in Jammu and Kashmir, say only Jammu, like Rohingya refugees, study of the Rohingya refugees. So how many chances are there that I'll get that project? That there may be a question that you are staying here and you want to research here.
No, but you can establish a proposal that people, Kashmiris and Rohingyas, are also living in Delhi.
But I want to do empirical in Jammu only because there is an area where number is more.
So then we need to establish that I have certain collaboration with the institutions in Jammu, and